Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Bosco. So glad you're with us as we come online here for a little ABC6 Fox 28 Extra. We are on all of our ABC6 and Fox 28 platforms, and we are talking about the debate. The debate, of course, still ongoing, but we have some very special guests with us, and we want to get some quick impressions as we are about, halfway almost through this debate here between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. Some distinguished guests with me. Catherine Terser is the executive director of Common Cause Ohio. Mehek Cook is with us as well, a local attorney and consultant. So glad you guys have been with us. They were with us online here before the debate, kind of getting us all geared up, and you've been sitting here at the studios watching the debate with me, and I appreciate you spending your time with us as well. Quickly off the top, I want to get your impressions, both of you, of what we have seen so far. Mehek, let's start with you.
I have to say, I'm really disappointed. I think after a week of preparation, I expected a little bit more energy. I looked at Joe Biden's address of the State of the Union. He was energetic. He enunciated. I had a tough time really following some of his sentencing today and the way that he was responding. But I will say overall, I was pleased to see President Trump strong, presidential, talk about his record, talk about statistics. And truly, I think on both sides, the moderators so far have done a good job. They have been able to say your time is up and go to the next question. And they've covered a lot in the last 50 minutes that we've been watching.
Catherine, what do you think?
So I always go into these things being really hopeful because it's this, it's this like opportunity to kind of get to know the candidates, to talk about substantive issues. But when it started and it felt like President Biden was being an auctioneer, explaining things as quickly as possible, I thought, oh dear, okay, maybe there's just not quite enough time for folks to actually, for either of the two presidential candidates to actually explain their thoughts, work their way through. I really deeply wished for some really good fact checking. For example, abortion after birth is called murder. It's not approved by any state in the country, and just the whole notion that somehow Nancy Pelosi is responsible for January 6th and not having the security and the troops it's just not true.
Right. Well, let me ask you, Mehek, what do you think of that? I mean, certainly there was some exaggerations on the former president's part tonight, and there wasn't a whole lot of fact checking. What's going on there?
Well, I think if we're going to talk about abortion, there are many states like Virginia and even Michigan who passed laws that allow for a partial birth or full-term abortions. They're leaving it to the doctor, and they don't really have the weeks. But let's get away from the abortion debate right now, because President Trump has already stated that he supports states' rights, which means states get to make that decision. They're the closest to individuals. So we have to leave that huge abortion issue off the table, because President Trump has taken it off the table by saying it's a states' right issue.
But some of the things he's said have been a bit exaggerated, and certainly, I think we've all three of us.
What about this exaggeration? Everybody wanted to see this left up to the states. Are you kidding me? President Trump wanted to see it left up to the states, and I like the little shout out to Ohio. I appreciate that. But saying, well, I think it so everyone does, is ridiculous.
Well, but that's where states are today. I mean, many states want to make those individual decisions.
What happened with Dobbs' decision?
Well, Roe v. Wade actually kicked it back to the states, and what President Trump has said, allow this to be a state's decision. I don't see an exaggeration in that. I think what people have trouble honestly looking at is when you look at issues and they continue to change over time. Abortion has changed over time drastically. I think what he is saying is allow this to be a state's decision. What Democrats continue to say is President Trump wants a universal ban, and he just squashed that. He said directly to the American people it's a states' right issue.
All right, let's talk about President Biden's performance. He came out of the gate a little bit. His throat was a little bit, he needed to clear his throat. Seems a little stumbly on some of his answers. The optics on this, especially for those questioning his age, Catherine, you got to admit, don't really look great.
So I do think that, how can I put this? We're all looking to see like how well both of them would do, and clearly he, much like I talked about it, like being like an auctioneer and that raspy voice, I do think he did not appear truly robust. And yet, we have different days. We have State of the Union days, and we have days where we're a little down. I do think, we need to be watching, through the rest of the election season. But we should be thinking, when we start to think about one elderly man, we have to think about both elderly men.
Mehek, what do you think? The Biden and the optics.
Yeah, for me, it's not an age thing. It's all about mental faculties. And you saw President Biden several times kind of drone off. And we all looked at each other and say, wait, what did he mean by that? Or what did he say? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm comparing. Age is a number to me. I'm looking at performance right now. And I'm not nitpicking here. You said it, auctioneer. Right. I think he was trying to get his points out very quickly because it was rehearsed. And look, we all have our rehearsals. We have that 2-minute opener. We want to capture the audience. I don't blame either candidate for having it, but Biden is struggling, and this wasn't a good performance for a Democrat today. And I think Democrats are going to start scrambling to see if they can replace him before his convention. I really do.
Oh, I'm surprised that you think that. I also think I've seen plenty of times where Mr. Trump kind of veers off in directions that one would not expect either.
Oh, he does that on purpose, though. I think he goes on.
You think he's diverting, kind of trying to pivot and kind of get attention away from certain...
He pivots. He talks to the people in a real-time manner. He's not scripted. So a lot of times we're talking about an issue and then he'll bring up other issues. Biden is forgetting facts. There's a huge difference. I haven't seen President Trump on that stage forget important details or facts.
He's not making them up. I suppose there's that.
All right, so let me ask this. In what we've seen so far in the first 45 minutes of this debate, the sliver of people who say they would be, they're open-minded, they still haven't made up their mind, or they're willing to consider voting for somebody else other than they think, what are they hearing, and are they being swayed, do you think?
This is where this is complicated. I think looking at this debate, I think a lot of people might just choose to opt out, which is really what we don't want. What we really want is people spending time thinking about, the policies they like, thinking about what, kind of their vision, but not getting caught. What we do hope is that neither get caught in, I don't know, some of the kind of stereotypes we carry around, whether it is, someone has an orange face or someone is moving off to the side slowly, like all of the kinds of stereotypes that we carry. So I do encourage people who came to this that just aren't quite decided who they're going to vote for to take a little bit more time, get to know the candidates a little bit better. I think this was one of those things that was hard to watch, but I think there will be other opportunities to get to know the candidates and to get to know and think about where we want to go with as a country.
Mehek, your take. Anybody who's unswayed, are they swayed now?
Well, I really think it's the Democrats that are looking to see if they want to replace Biden. Look, Biden lied about leaving troops. He left soldiers in Afghanistan. So if anybody has died, it's been on Joe Biden's watch. So when you have facts like that, and he said he saved Israel, the last time I checked, we still have a pro-Hamas president that has continued not to draw a line in the sand and be for our strongest ally, which is Israel. So I think it's really Democrats that he's losing, and that's a positive gain for President Trump. The independents, I think, are soft Democrats that aren't really sure or sold on Joe Biden. They're the ones that are moving. It's young voters. It's young Black Americans that voted in overwhelming margins before for Joe Biden. That's the base that's now leaving Biden for Trump.
One last question before we go. What would you say to either candidate for this next half hour? What advice would you give them? Either candidate you pick. Mehek?
I think it's just giving hope. It's what Catherine said initially. We want somebody that is just going to tell us, what is that roadmap for prosperity? What are you going to do right now for an Ohioan? We're in Ohio, so I'm going to say for an Ohioan, to get us out of this economic desperate time as we try and feed our families. And what are you going to do about illegal immigration on day one? If they can answer that question, we'll have more hope for the future.
Catherine, what do you want to see in this last half hour?
I am very interested in the ways that democracy isn't working right now, and I would love to hear the candidates talk about, well, how can they improve democracy? What are the kinds of things they can put in place? so many of us worry about dark money in elections. Are there things that they can do so that we encourage more voting, so that we encourage more participation all year long? I'd really like to hear them talk about like the Voting Rights Act, and when we think about the John Lewis update to the Voting Rights Act, I'd like to hear about that as well.
All right, half an hour left of this debate. You will see it on ABC6 and Fox 28. Mehek Cook, thank you for being with us. Catherine Tercer, thank you for being with us. Really appreciate both of you spending the evening with us here tonight. All right, we will see you at after the debate at about 10:40 on Fox 28 and then at 11 o'clock on ABC6. See you then.